All right, welcome to the Chief Joyce Dugan Cultural Arts Center on the Cherokee Central Schools campus. Our appreciation to Jay Winchester and Cherokee Central Schools, Chris McCoy from the Tribal Communications Office, and Lisa Frady from Destination Marketing Department, Mike Parker from the Commerce Division, and Doug Pheasant and the officers of the Cherokee Police Department. We would like to thank the Birdtown Community candidates for agreeing to participate tonight. Candidates for Birdtown Community Tribal Council seats are Boyd Al, Albert Rose, Nelson Lambert, and Ashley Sessions. On behalf of the event organizers, we wish each of you well in your campaign. There will be no opening statements from the candidates. The moderator will sit at a table with a timekeeper and debate organizers. The moderator is the only person who will ask questions, and the questions will be in the form from a predetermined list compiled by the Cherokee One Feather based on community feedback. The public via social media, phone, email, and the One Feather staff were sources for these questions. There will also be a table and staff available for community members to write in specific questions regarding their communities or other tribal issues at the event. Community questions will be vetted for appropriateness by the members of the COF editorial board prior to being brought to and read by the moderator. The candidates are not to respond to any verbal questions offered by the audience during the debate. We also ask that the audience not audibly react to comments made by the candidates in the interest of time and respect for the hosts and the candidates. There will be a time at the end of the session for the audience appreciation for the candidates. The moderator will recognize a specific candidate to address a question once the question is asked. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to respond. Each candidate will be allowed an additional 1 minute to address any follow-up. Once the formal questions are concluded, vetted community questions will be asked. Up to 8 questions from the community will be asked in a 3-minute, 1-minute rebuttal structure. After questioning, the candidates will have 5 minutes each to make closing statements. When the candidates have concluded their closing statements, the moderator will thank the candidates and close the debate. Those candidates who could not or chose not to attend were invited to submit a brief statement to be read in their absence, and I will do that now. From Albert Rose, he lets us know that he will not be attending. He is going to Oklahoma for the Remember the Removal bike event. Nelson Lambert gave us the following statement. To all my Birdtown friends and families, thank you to the editor and the staff of the One Feather for sponsoring this event. I'd also like to thank the Birdtown community for your support in the primary election. Unfortunately, I cannot attend the debate this evening due to several prior commitments. I plan, however, to send written responses to each of the questions. Also, I will be discussing these matters with the families that I continue to meet with. From the many visits I have had with our Birdtown families, my views on the issues being discussed this evening are already clear because I have listened and learned from you. I do invite any further discussion or questions you may have. Through my training in receiving the highest law degree possible and all of my life experience, I am confident yet humble in my capabilities to lead our Birdtown community and our great tribe. I will always utilize my time and effort to work for you, Birdtown, and will make decisions that will be best for every enrolled member of our tribe. I firmly believe that working together, we can achieve great things and overcome some of the challenges from our past to lead our tribe forward as one. I am eager to serve you, and with your help, we will win together and create the future here that we all desire. I will see you soon. Thank you, and I sincerely appreciate your continued support in the general election. Nelson Lambert, candidate for Birdtown Tribal Council. We will start the formal questions now. Ashley, you have the first question. Do you think people incarcerated on drug charges should be required to do community service cleanup while they are in jail, including syringe pickup?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think that the individuals that are incarcerated, I don't think they should necessarily be required to do community service, but I think it would be a great opportunity to get them back out into the communities, get them back into society, and encourage them to do more community service. I know we used to have them do the trash pickup, and it was a good idea just for them to be able to get out and help. And I'm not really sure why they quit doing that program. I think it was due to insurance reasons. But I know that the tribe actually has programs in place right now where they have contracted workers that do those duties. But I think if they are in there for like a low crime or something where they're not a threat to the public, it'd be a good idea to offer that and get them out, give them back to the community.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd?
Yes, thank you, Robert. I most certainly agree with the people who are in jail, do community cleanup services. If you think back, we used to have that. We used to have Bill Ledford and I think Buttons Long as the supervisors over these people that went out and cleaned up the roadways. I think it's a grand idea. It gives them a sense of compassion. It gives them a sense of freedom, getting out of the jail cell, the 24/7. I think they'd like to be out doing that instead of being in jail or in the cell. Let's put it that way. But you could also use these people to utilize, landscaping, weed eating, clean up around our tribal buildings, the Justice Center elders that need help as well. I think it'd be a great idea to let them get out there and do that. We could also do it with lesser charges for people with, failure to appear, minor traffic, petty theft, and nonviolent crimes. I think it'd be another means of helping get out and clean up a community. As you know, our community, it gets pretty filthy at times, and certainly we got contract work to do that, and we all know contract for cleanup is much cheaper than employees, so I'm sure the contractors that do the roadside cleanup would love to get some more help because it's hard to find for them people, so they could learn what they're doing on roadside cleanup and, maybe apply for a job with these local contractors, enroll member contractors for a job in the future. I'm trying to read my notes here, and bear with me. I'm not the best with my eyesight at this age here, but well, I think I about covered it all there, but I think, here again, I think it'd be a good way for the kids, the people that's incarcerated, to have a feeling of giving back to the tribe and the community. And here again, I think I think it'd rather be outside working instead of in the jail cell doing nothing, being idle. So I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley, 1 minute follow-up.
I just want to follow up on a little bit of what I said before, that it'd be a good opportunity for them to get out and give back to the community. And also, while Boyd was speaking, it reminded me that I'm not 100% sure, but I'm almost positive that they currently do not get any outside time. So it probably would be something that a lot of them would be willing to do, is to get out and do some of the community service to get some time out of there.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd, 1 minute follow-up.
Yeah, well, it actually put trust back in the individual as well. You're letting them out to work outside there, and the trust that goes along with that they're trusting me out here to do a job that I could be locked up and I could run away if I want to, but they're putting that trust in me, And I think it's a great feeling for him. I think he'd do a wonderful job as well.
Thank you, Boyd. Next question is yours. What constitutes a reasonable return on investment for economic diversification opportunities? Please speak to specific strategies and include your thoughts on ecotourism, solar, and wind power.
The answer to that, we need to look at ecotourism. When you say ecotourism, you're talking about, saving the environment. I like to see the possibility of a zip lines put up. That's, low impact on the environment. We could get better hiking trails with tours especially to our popular waterfalls. Farm-to-table restaurant. When we do travel, we see a lot of farm-to-table restaurants, where the farmers take the goods right to the restaurant to sell. That's pretty popular in some areas. A farmer's market. A lot of farmers here on the reservation, on the Qualla boundary, so, I think they would probably like to take and show what they have and sell and, and help make some of the money back that they put into the farming. Additional mountain bike trails such as Far Mountain, that's very popular. We have people from all the way from Sweden to come here to ride the Far Mountain Trail, so that's saying a lot. On the solar is very, very expensive. I've talked to two households that's got solar. One paid $38,000 for solar panels on her house. The other one paid $40,000. So solar is very, very expensive. And I just don't feel we have enough wind on the Qualla boundary, to set up windmills. In all my travels, I've seen several windmills out where you think it'd be turning pretty swiftly, but they're just sitting idle. So I don't think that'd be a good investment there.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley?
In my opinion, I think the greatest return that we would get from any of these would be jobs for our individuals in the community. Anything that we invest in, I think we should always be looking for the return to benefit our people. And if we do get, like Boyd mentioned, if we did zip lining, that would create an opportunity for people to have a job. If we can invest in a little more land for farming, that would always be able to give back to the community. If we could bring it in, I would like to see us have our own farms and be able to provide for our children in our schools. I think that would be an excellent return. We could use it in our schools. We could use it for restaurants, local restaurants. I know that they currently buy from different farmers markets, but we could also do that as well. I have not really looked into the solar, so I'm not going to go into that. I do know that it is an expensive investment. I know the tribe has talked about that a lot, but just hasn't happened yet. But that's all I have.
Thank you, Ashley. 1 minute follow-up, Boyd?
Yeah, I heard Mr. Penix talk about our water table. The tribe just bought 490 acres back at Black Rock the other day, and one of the reasons for this is that's where our main water source is coming down Soko Creek. So 490 acres, that's a lot of land. We could put houses back there as well, plus another additional bike trail, zip lines. So I think it's a great purchase we did, and I think we're going to continue doing good purchases such as that.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley, 1 minute.
I don't have any further comments.
Thank you, Ashley. This is your question. Do you support monthly per capita distributions as a means of universal basic income for tribal members?
I had actually been in favor of this in the past, but doing some research, I don't think it's a good idea because it prevents our elders from being able to receive their benefits. It can actually disqualify some of them from their social service benefits. It also affects families that are receiving food stamps and that go to the commodity building. So it actually has a higher impact on people than most would think. So I don't think that it would be a good idea to do monthly distributions.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd?
No, I do not support the monthly disbursement. And reason being, it would add additional duties and responsibilities of the casino and finance chair of the tribal finance team, and it may require additional employees, which is an added expense. It's also, most importantly, it would kick individuals off Social Security who are on disability because of the spin down. It would impact them greatly. And we have a few hundred on that, so we don't want to impact our elders here or the people that's on disability. It would reduce the interest rate for current twice-a-year disbursement by $500,000. There was $500,000 earned on the disbursement we just got recently. I think it was like $47 per individual. I do agree with the per cap loans, but we have about 2,000 people a month that gets a per cap loans, and most of these people between the age of 18 and 35. So it really wasn't intended for the use for elders, which it was spoken of when it first came out. But nonetheless, people use that for a good cause, and I'm happy they do so. The per cap loans, monthly per cap loans, is my understanding, they do not affect those getting per cap for twice a year. It don't affect people that do not get that loan, which is a good thing. I think if you did it for once a month as well, it would promote or increase our unemployment rate. People think they could live off of that monthly rate. It also impact attendance and productivity in the current workforce, which I think that'd be a bad thing as well.
Thank you, Boyd. 1 minute, Ashley.
Thank you. I agree with a couple things that Boyd said about the people not wanting to work because they would try to live off of that. But I think people currently do that now, even with getting it only every 6 months. I wouldn't disagree with it due to putting more duties on positions because that is their job. So I think that the per capita loan program that we have in place is probably the best route to just keep it at the limited, the 500. We could possibly look into having an emergency fund if someone had like a true emergency and needed more than that 500, and make it like a one-time only deal, but not the distributions every month. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd, 1 minute.
Here again, I wouldn't support the monthly per cap payout. There's certainly a lot more cons than the pros to this.
Thank you, Boyd. Boyd, this is your question. With substance use disorder being an increasingly significant concern for tribal members, should the tribe harshen punishments, continue as is, or move to decriminalize illicit drug use? How do we aid our young people in getting help without the ills of the criminal justice system?
Well, I certainly think it should be harsher and mandatory punishment for our drug dealers and the traffickers that's called on the quality boundary. These dismissals and so forth, that's just it's not fitting the bill. And for mandatory classes for those suffering from substance abuse, they can, in Mothertown, the part of the Otero program, that's a great program where they can enroll in that. They do have substance abuse problems, and they're getting paid to do the work. And they're also being groomed, to get a job once they complete the classes. I think it's a great idea Otero came up with. Young people need to be able to reach out to parents and the community for help without fear. I think that's one of the bigger things is fear coming from the substance abuser in the first place. So I think of the repercussions that's going to be thrown on them. Treatment center, the tribe offers several treatment centers Angelewski, you know, the one we built down in Snowbird. I think there's great programs there. If you want to get in that and clean yourself up, there's wonderful opportunities to do so. But I think it takes the person themselves to want to do that, to enroll in these or get help in these treatment centers to turn their life around.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley?
Thank you. Concerning the substance abuse, I don't think we should harshen punishments for that, but we definitely need to harshen punishment for the drug dealers. And I used to work in the criminal justice system, in the court system at Cherokee. I think they need to lessen the amount of, I'm going to quote, informants that we have. We have people that are allowed to basically sell drugs as long as they tell on someone else. So I would like to see our police department, our justice system actually follow the laws and stop trying to go after the bigger dealer, and focus on every single drug dealer. I don't see us going and making it completely legal to use drugs. I don't think that's a good idea. I think we need to encourage our young people to seek treatment. I don't think incarceration is the answer. I do agree with probation and community service. That way they still have their freedom. They can work, they can go to their meetings, and they can still be productive in the community. So I think the biggest problem is we need to focus more on the drug dealers and not on the users. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd, 1 minute.
Well, there's not a family on the reservation, the Call Boundary here, that hasn't had a problem with substance abuse from somebody in their family. I've had several people in my community say that instead of dismissal in the court system, they'd rather see their child or friend or whoever, you know, incarcerated. At least they know where they're at, and they're not out here could hurt themselves or hurt someone else while being on with substance abuse. So I think the court needs to take a little stronger look at this, you know, especially on the dismissals and stuff. See way too many dismissals for the same person, so to speak.
Thank you, Boyd. 1 minute, Ashley.
Yeah, just going off of what Boyd said with the dismissals, a lot of that has to do with, like I stated before, it's people basically telling on someone else, or they just don't cooperate with the police. So we need to get the harsher punishments in there for them. And also, a lot of those are dismissed with leave to refile. Unfortunately, we don't ever see those charges refiled. So I'd also like to see a decrease in the dismissals within the court system.
Thank you, Ashley. Ashley, this next question is yours. Do you think someone duly convicted of a felony should be allowed to run for tribal office?
I do not think that someone convicted of a felony should be able to run for tribal office. I wanted to answer that in a different way, but there's really no way to be fair about it. I know a lot of people say, I think it should depend on the crime. If it was a lesser, like a nonviolent felony or non-drug related, they should be able to. But fair is fair. If it's a felony, it's a felony. There's really no gray area there. So my answer is no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd?
Many families, you know, have good friends, and as they've turned their lives around, they've become educated, they've obtained good jobs, became good leaders in our community. But currently, you know, felons are disqualified from holding tribal office. The Constitution, the Charter states this, but, you know, with the Constitution in the process of being rewritten, you know, that change could be changed by the people per referendum. That's a tough question, but I think we have to have the people have to speak. But you know, when the One Feather had their survey question out, should felons be able to vote? Well, not vote, but be run for office. I think the consensus on that was 26 yes, and I think 74% no. So that kind of tells you something what the people are thinking now. And you know, the Constitution here again is, you know, we're working on that, and that's part of the Constitution. But if people think that needs to be changed, they'll do it per referendum, and hopefully that'll be coming out probably within the next year. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but hopefully that'll be a referendum vote for them or on that.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley, 1 minute.
I was also going to say the same. I know there was an individual that brought this up recently, and they stated in council that it had to go out by a referendum in order for that to be changed in the law. So it wouldn't necessarily be up to tribal council to change that. It's going to be up to the people if they would like to see someone that has that felony on their record, but they feel that they've turned around their life and that they would make a great leader. So if that were to happen, then it would be up to the people within every community.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd, 1 minute. Good. All right, the next question is yours, Boyd. What is your stance on discontinuing drug testing of EBCI tribal employees?
Well, I don't agree with it. You know, people that come in maybe on drugs would, you got safety issues there. People operating heavy equipment, driving company vehicles, trucks. Drugs like alcohol causes accidents lead to injury or death, and there's innocent lives are at stake. It takes me back to Mr. Brad Allison, you know, lost his life here just recently down in Jenkins Strait there, just on his way out doing what he was supposed to do, and a person come down the road that was high on drugs, hit him and took his life. Very unfortunate, but this is what drugs do. Drugs in the workplace also is a loss of productivity and attendance concerns as well.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley?
I don't agree with doing away with the drug testing. I think that we need to hold people accountable. If you have to, I'm sorry, I started to think of something else. Like Boyd stated before, we have a lot of equipment on the road. We have a lot of heavy equipment being operated, but also you think about the individuals that are in offices. You have them behind a computer making a budget. They could be high and accidentally click the wrong number, and it could cost the tribe millions of dollars. So you want to make sure that everyone that's working is drug-free and not under the influence of any type of substance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd, 1 minute.
Yeah, I just feel we need to continue drug testing because, you know, drugs in the workplace, there's just no place for it. It's too, it'd be too costly with lives, injury, accidents, whatever it may do to, you know, to cause something that's very, very negative.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley, 1 minute.
I would like to see the drug testing come back for all tribal employees, and I would really like to see the elected officials and appointed officials being drug tested as well, since they are the ones that made the decision to change this, and a lot of people are wondering why. So I would like for them to be drug tested as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. The next question is yours. If the Catawba Indian Nation gets approved for a casino, what are your plans to help with any lost revenue?
If they are eventually approved for a casino, I think that we should look into doing some type of an investment and maybe working with them. I honestly don't see that happening anytime soon, But I think that since they are a federally recognized tribe, they are one of us, they are Native American, I would like to see us work with them and not work against them, because that's just not the way that we are supposed to be. We're not supposed to bring down our own people. So I would just like to see us go work with them and not work against them, because we could eventually end up hurting ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd?
Yeah, the lost revenue we're talking about here, it could be up to $100 million. That's 1/3 of our current revenue from gaming here on the quality boundary. To offset huge loss, focus more on family-oriented activities like it used to be. Cherokee needs to become a destination market, not a night or weekend stay. I think we need to start looking at purchasing land in other states that have gaming on the ballot, which we have been doing, Tennessee, and we're looking at some in Georgia as well. If passed, team up with the state legislators to build a casino in these other states. And actually, we got the LLC board that are looking into other sources of revenue out there for maybe buying businesses or going in partnerships. I know the Chickasaw out of Oklahoma, they're in the medical field through their LLC board. They make $1 billion a year through medical. So that's some type avenue we need to look at as well. But, it's just $100 million loss, that's a tremendous amount of money, and let's hope it doesn't happen. We've been in Washington combating the Catawbas, for the last 4, 5, 6 months. But, they are a recognized tribe. They was recognized in 1993. But, when they signed their agreement, the treaty there, they said they could not have gaming, but they did have bingo. But bingo failed, I think, in 2017, so it just faltered there. But when he was up in Washington here in Lindsey Graham speak, he said the Catawbas are locked into poverty, but he thought North Carolina should have the key to unlock that poverty, which it shouldn't. Catawbas have no part in North Carolina. They're a South Carolina-based tribe, so that's where they should stay. We don't oppose them having gaming in South Carolina if they choose to do so, but not here in North Carolina. That's our Aboriginal land right there in Cleveland County, not the Catawbas.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley, a minute follow-up?
Sure. So my question to Boyd would be, if they're in South Carolina and you oppose them to having gaming in North Carolina, why would you encourage our tribe to purchase land in other states? Because then we would be trying to do the same thing that they're doing, that what you all are considering land grabbing.
Thank
you, Ashley. Boyd, your 1 minute.
I didn't quite understand her, I heard some of it, but, if we went to Tennessee or Georgia, we don't have to have trust land for that. That's open to anybody in Tennessee or Georgia if they get gaming. Catawbas are trying to get this into trust, which they have to go through the BIA, and they're trying to circumvent exactly what the Eastern Band did. Take out Section 20, and that says you have to get in touch with all the stakeholders, and it takes millions of dollars and 7 to 10 years to get this completed here. But they wanted to circumvent the policy that we went through, and that's totally wrong.
Thank you, Boyd. The next question is yours. What are your thoughts on cannabis and its economic potential for the EBCI?
That's question number 8, correct?
I don't have a number on what I'm
I got
sorry.
my number here, but anyhow. Cannabis has a huge potential for revenue. You take Colorado, for instance. They made $1 billion since 2014. They got 3,000 businesses out there, but we're talking recreational here. We're not talking medicinal, medical. I think medical has its tremendous amount of money can be made there as well. It's all around us. It's legal in 10 states and District of Columbia right now, but medical use, we're talking about CBD oil, it treats anxiety, depression, acne. Individuals taking chemo, it improves their appetite, and for people with HIV, and it also offset the opioid prescription use, which is it's a huge problem for here, not only here on the boundary, but, you know, countrywide, worldwide.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley?
I think it'd be an excellent investment for the tribe to go ahead and start getting into the cannabis. I would like to see it done medically first. Western North Carolina actually has the highest rate for cancer, so I think we have a great market to help individuals in our area. I know from personal experience with my aunt, when she had stage 4 lung cancer, she was actually prescribed medical marijuana. Since it's not something that the hospital covers, we went and we purchased it for her, and it really helped her with her pain. It helped her be able to eat, and it's just really beneficial for those that are suffering from all types of different disorders or with the terminally ill patients. I think it would be a great revenue for our tribe. We're actually behind, so I'd like to see that get up and moving. I know that we have a study being conducted. I'm not sure if that's complete or not, but I have a feeling it's going to come back and say the same thing that many others have said, and I think that it will get rolling, but I just think that we're already behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd, 1 minute follow-up.
Well, the Paiute tribe out in Vegas, you know, they have one of the biggest cannabis dispensaries in the United States, and they make a tremendous amount of money out there. Jeremy Wilson paid a visit out there, and he said the cars were just nonstop. You know, people going through, you know, and buying and buying and buying. So it does have a great potential for revenue, but I do not agree with recreational, but I would agree with medical use for that.
Thank you. Ashley, 1 minute.
Yeah, just retouching on that for the medical use only. And the reason that I don't agree with the recreational use is because from the previous question asked about the drug testing with tribal employees, that would kind of cancel that out. We'd have to take that away if we did legalize, or we made it legal for recreation use. So I just really support the medical right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. The next question is yours. Are you comfortable with the current levels of transparency in government? Do you support public access to all government budgets and procedural documents?
I think we have a good amount of transparency, but I would like to see more. It doesn't necessarily have to be aired on TV, but I think all enrolled members should be entitled to have access to the records. I know the business committee, they like to keep a lot of their stuff off the air and out of the public eye, which is not a bad thing because it can protect us from vendors that are not local if they know how much money we're willing to spend on a certain project. But I think that everybody should have the right to know if there's a building being leased downtown, or am I getting charged more than the person right beside me? I think that should be public record for all enrolled members. I think that's about it.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd?
Yes, I think transparency is great in council. Since being in council, I haven't seen anything hidden from the people unless it's confidential information. Budget and council is live stream every time we have it. I give out information and documentation when requested from anybody in my community or any other community thereof. I support public access. Public needs to know what the budget is, how much is spent, and how it's spent. It ensures accountability. It negates wasteful spending. Supports procedure documents for public access. You need to outline the task from start to finish. Describe the tasks to be followed. Employee manual is a procedural document. It allows public to be a part of suggestions, opinions, and voice differences on these procedure documents.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley, 1 minute.
Yeah, just touching on the budget portion, I think that the public should have access to the budget. Maybe like in the departments, their total budget, but not each job listed specifically. I know whenever, during the last election, I was given a budget. So whenever I looked at it, it has line for line what every single position pays. And that's not something that everybody would want out there to the public, because once you sign your conversion, most of the time you're not even allowed to talk about your own salary to other people. So that part I would not agree with being public, but just for the department as a whole, like maybe what their budget is as a whole, but not each individual line item. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd, 1 minute.
Here again, I just agree that transparency is, it's great in the legislative and the executive branch. I'm happy with it.
Thank you, Boyd. The next question is yours. Have you read the recently proposed Constitution, specifically what is good and what is not good about the document?
Yes, I have read it. It consists of approximately like 25 pages. What I like is the term limits and the alignment it presents. What needs work is proposed Grand Council change. Chief calls for Grand Council, not community club officers, to have exclusive right. A quorum needs to consist of more than 25% as proposed. It needs to be 1% over half. Grand Council should be discussion process, not business. Judicial branch positions should be elected with term limits to mirror chief and vice chief protocol. Judicial, I think, is just the same as the legislative and executive. They should have terms like us, and they should be elected as well. Do work sessions on the Constitution, section by section. It's just too broad, do it one time. Print each section to be worked on in the One Feather. Pass or amend by section until complete for referendum vote. Pass totally per referendum if that can be done. I think the reason we're trying to get it done now and people want it to be put on a referendum during the general election is you have a better turnout for the general election for chief, vice chief, and council. But I don't necessarily see that. I think it needs to take its time and get it right before you put it out for referendum. We don't want to play Russian roulette with this. Put it out there thinking it's not going to pass, and it passes, then it passed. That's the law then. So we'd have to go back and rework at what we didn't want to put in the first place. So get what you want in there and have the people vote on it then. If it fails, keep working on it until we do get it right, until it passes.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley?
I've had a chance to read different portions of the Constitution, and the thing that I like most right now is the jurisdiction. And again, that's because of my history of working in the court system. If we have non-enrolled members and they commit a non-violent crime, they have to submit to our jurisdiction. Otherwise, there's nothing that our officers can do. The courts cannot try them. They can't do anything if that person does not submit to our jurisdiction. So I really like that part of, I believe it said that there would be signs posted that once you enter our territory that you submit to our jurisdiction. So I really like that part. The part that I don't like is at the Grand Council, it says that the community club officers, they'll basically kind of conduct the meeting and they'll take recommendations back to tribal council, but you can't actually make a decision out of the Grand Council. The last one that we had, I spoke to Jerry Wolf and I asked him what Grand Council meant and asked him how it was properly conducted, and he told me that it was the people, for the people, and by the people. So what was done there, what was voted on, what was said, that was the final word. And that tribal council could not overturn it. So to this day, that's truly what I believe Grand Council is. If we're going to have it, then it has to be the voice of the people and what what happens at that Grand Council, that has to stand and it cannot be overturned. That's the one part that I would like to see worked on with the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd, 1 minute follow-up on that?
Yeah, well, I'll go back. And I compared this the other day to the alcohol vote referendum. You know, what we thought was a very, very simple question still confused people when they went to vote. But, you know, the Constitution is 25 pages long. I think there's a lot of stuff that can be taken out. We need to condense it more. I know the committee has been to community club meetings, you know, and handed them out. They'd even discuss this, but I've only handed out 2 since they were handed to us, you know. So I think it's just too fast. It's too quick. People don't understand what they're, you know, they don't know the simplicity of it's just complicated, you know, and that's confusing. So I think we need to narrow it down, you know, then get it right, then put it out there for referendum vote before it's even put out.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley, 1 minute?
Yeah, I would like to see it worked on some more. It'd be really bad if we put it out there and it did pass because, or if it passed and then we had issues, because the only way to change it would be to get a 51% vote again. And we all know how hard it is to get people to come out. And we recently had the election ordinance passed by tribal council, and there's been a lot of issues with it. That's a good example of something that was passed that wasn't ready. We've had a lot of things go into court. I think we need to take our time on it so that we don't end up in situations just like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. The next question is yours. How do you change the EBCI working climate and environment so that there is no fear of political retaliation?
I think that we need to make HR standalone. They need to do their own hiring. They need to do their own firing. We need to completely take the chief and vice chief out of being the last signature on anything. We also need to have right now it's the secretary of HR. I think we just need to have a director. They need to be a permanent position, not an appointed position, because that still leaves politics in your HR area. So that would be my recommendation, to make them stand alone. Maybe even if we had to contract. I know that HR in the casino, they're their own thing. They get the information, they send it to the department. The managers, supervisors in that department, they select the individuals and they sign it, and that's it. It never has to go beyond that. It shouldn't have to go all the way up the ladder to the chief and vice chief. So if we could get them standalone, I think that would be the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd?
I think employees should never have a fear of retaliation. HR holds authority over executive and our legislative level decisions. We should never intervene in a decision that HR has to make. HR needs to be firm and follow employee handbook and policies set forth. You have to have a strong leader in HR. Decisions or requests out to set policies by executive or legislature should be turned over to the ethics board. A full investigation of the person placed on unpaid leave, investigation findings determine outcome of impeachment and or non-impeachment proceedings. You know, I worked for the tribe 42 years for my retirement, but you know, I never was, you know, threatened with my job when, you know, politics changed, and I hope that continues to do the same here. But there was some instances, you know, when I was a sanitation manager, when I'd interview and want the person, the first choice to be marked out, and I'd get the second or third choice, which is, I think it's very unfair. And that's, I said on the interview, so I know who I want, but you know, I didn't get that person. But anyhow, I put a resolution, an ordinance in on December 6th of 2018, which, you know, took the hiring, the signing off out of executive hands. Now the secretary signs off on the hires. So it's up to the secretary to hire who's best for that department, and not somebody that's from a higher level to revengeful or something like that, or personal vendetta against somebody that knocks them out of a job, or hire somebody that thinks from the family or whatever. And that passed, actually. It's, I think, 67 approved, 26 opposed, and I think one was absent, so it did pass.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley, 1 minute.
Yeah, another thing that, Facebook is the place where everybody goes to discuss and debate. So I think freedom of speech should not be used against people in their jobs. They should be able to, if they're not on the clock, of course, be allowed to make comments, have tasteful debates online, and not be fearful of their job if they don't support the incumbents at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd, 1 minute.
That's it.
Okay. Boyd, you've got the next question. What would you do to improve or balance housing opportunities for tribal members and needed workforce?
Well, buildable land on the Quality Boundary is becoming very, very scarce. We need to purchase land adjacent to the Quality Boundary. We just purchased, I think, 190 acres here a few months back, and that's deemed as a apartment complex for both enrolled members and workforce housing as well. Make complex user-friendly. We need the laundry, convenience store, pool, commons area for them, transit routes and stops. And of course, these apartments are going to be income-based, and they're going to be 1, 2, 3 bedroom units. When you have a management apartment complex, you got to have strong management and oversight of complex. You got to have accountability. Housing for enrolled members at Coopers Creek once in trust. My understanding, the paperwork was in Nashville maybe 4 months ago. I think it's in Washington, D.C. now to be signed off as trust land. The sad part about that, we bought that land in 2015, and here it is 14 years later. We're finally trying to get it into trust. I think we got 284 acres over there. I think 100 acres is buildable for houses. My thoughts on that, if you got 100 acres buildable, cut that down to a half an acre a house, then you're getting 200 houses out of the same area instead of just one. A half an acre is quite a bit of land. If you think about it, a football field is just about an acre. So if you take half of that, that's plenty big enough for a house and a yard around that. The main goal is here more houses for the land we buy. Continue looking for buildable land on the boundary for apartment complexes that house more people. There is land on the boundary. We bought some up Big Cove the other day. I think it's 40 acres, plus we got another 5 acres thrown in on top of that. That's next to Jenkins Grocery down there in the Birdtown community. But flat land, it's very expensive, but we gotta buy it for our people. But we got to also look at for workforce housing. If you don't have a workforce in here working, if they have to commute a long ways, they're not going to come here to work. They're going to stay exactly where they're at to find work. But the wages and the benefits are great here. That's why people want to come to work. But we got to look for some way to kind of house those people as well. That's where the money comes from. And there are people coming here to work to help the casino.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley?
I would make sure that projects that have been passed are completed before we purchase more land for uncompleted projects. I think Boyd stated that the Coopers Creek property was bought many years ago, and I know it's not in trust, but according to the information I've been giving, that property doesn't have to be in trust for housing development to go there now. We just have to continue to pay the state taxes. We can go ahead and develop a housing complex there now. We also need to focus on some more emergency housing. We have absolutely no emergency housing for our tribal members. And to me, that's a really big red flag. Anybody could have a house fire and then they're going to be completely homeless. Where are they going to go? How is our tribe going to help them? We have to get some emergency housing. We need to get some low-income apartment complexes. Also, the project that they did complete on Fisher Branch, it started out as a rent-to-own. So maybe we could do some more programs like that, where maybe someone is in a position of they're actually in the process of building a home, but they need to rent a place temporarily. So once they moved out, then it would be available for someone else that might not have land, but they would like to rent to own that home. So there's a bunch of different options that you have. You just have to actually follow through with these projects and get them complete, and stop buying land all over the place for outrageous prices. Right now, I think that the tribal council is approving these purchases, and they're paying way too much for this land, and most of it is friends or family or something. They're related, and they're just, it's basically make my friend rich. That's how the community perceives it. So I think we need to quit paying so much, because no one in the community can afford that. And these individuals that do have land, they're not going to sell it for less than $10,000 an acre, because they know the tribe will pay that much. So we need to quit paying so much for this property so that people can go out and purchase it. It used to be $500 an acre. So I think we just really need to focus back on our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd, 1 minute.
Well, here again, I think we're going to have to find a happy medium, between workforce housing and our enrolled members as well. And I think it's going to have to be income-based. You have to have a job, theoretically, to own a home. But I think we have to have both, and we got to have find the land for that. We just bought the old Whittier School parcel over there. I think it was 5 acres. Our proposal for that is an apartment complex as well. You want to buy land that's in close proximity to Cherokee, where people can commute back and forth in a timely manner to get to work or to visit their family if they're enrolled members.
Thank you, Boyd. We'll now read the community questions that have been submitted tonight. The question will go to Ashley. Solicare is in dire need of a new facility. Where is that on your priority list? And if it's not your first priority, why isn't it? Please explain.
So I currently work at the hospital, so I can't go into too many details due to confidentiality issues. But what I can say is that the hospital did get turned over to the hospital, and they will be completely under the hospital management as of October 1 of this year. So I think the community will be very pleased with the turnaround once we get in and get everything rolling. As far as dire need of a new facility, I'm down there very often. I don't think that statement is true. I think that we do absolutely need more workers. We're always looking for CNAs and RNs. So if you're watching this and you need a job, please go apply at Solicare. But it's a really good place. It's really clean. I seen some review recently that was posted online by WLOS. But if you go down there and you speak to the residents, you speak to the staff, they will tell you that they're comfortable where they are. And also the ratings, you can pay for a rating. And we're also a federal facility, so we're under a different review. So that's not true at all. But coming up, I know that there are future plans for a new facility. I want to say it's in our 5-year plan. Don't quote me on that, but it is in the works. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd?
Solitaire, I try to visit Solitaire at least once a week, go in and visit people, not just people in my community, but every person down there. Sometimes I walk the halls just to see someone sitting idle or somebody laying in their bed. I go in and talk to them and get to know who the person is, but they appreciate that. And I've lost two great friends here in the last 2 or 3 days, Mr. Ray Kinsler and Johnny Heyman. I spoke to pretty frequently while they were there. But, you know, one of the questions I asked anybody I talk to down there, how are you being treated? And they say, fine. I said, how are they feeding you? They said, fine, the food's great. But, you know, you need to get in discussion and ask questions to the people that, you know, that occupy this building. But I think it's time we need to look at a new solid care building for them. But I think it's been down there for several years, probably back in the 80s. I remember when I was down there talking to Ray Kinsler in the dining room, he couldn't remember much, but then it came to his mind. He said, you know, Bob Smith built this. And he did. Bob Smith built that way back in the years. I think it was back in the 80s when I was on the board of directors for the Boys Club. But I think, you know, since the hospital is going to take it over, I think it's going to be run much better. I know staffing down there, it's hard to get staff because the pay on other facilities is much higher than what we pay our people here at Solid Care. So we're going to have to up the ante, you know, to get good qualified people to come down there to work. Every time I go down there, it seems like I see a new face that somebody's left or somebody's been hired. But you know, we need to do some. That should be one of our next main projects. Whoever gets in council, you know, to upgrade that, find a new facility. I think somebody said it'd take like 65 acres to do the whole facility for all our health and medical, and that's a lot of land. But if the water park maybe don't go in at the hospital there, maybe it'd be a wonderful place to put that, you know, a new solid care center. Just wonderful people down there. Once you get to know them, you want to go back the next week and follow up with them, see how they're being treated. But I enjoy going down, I really do.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley, 1 minute.
I just wanted to retouch on that the residents that are there, they are treated really well. They're fed well, they're taken care of. It's definitely been a long transition, but we're almost there. And like I said before, I think people will be very pleased with the changes that are going to be made in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd, 1 minute.
Yeah, actually, when I was down at Solid Care talking, I saw a young man down there, and his name is Andrew Bradley. I went up and started talking to him. I've seen him down there before and finally got around to talking to him. And the more I got to know him, he's a Birdtown resident now. He's a registered voter in Birdtown. I asked him, I said, Andrew, how long you been here? He said, I've been here 11 years. I said, you vote in Birdtown or Big Cove? He said, I vote in Birdtown now. And I said, are you going to vote for me? He said, what are you going to do for me? But it's still pretty bright on that edge, you know. But, you know, just wonderful people down there. You know, if you get a chance to go down and visit, I just love for people to come by and talk because they don't get a lot of people come down and talk, even their family members, which is sad. But here again, we need to concentrate on solid care and improving that and making it one of the best facilities around.
Thank you, Boyd. Next question is yours. What do you plan to do about the crime rate? What do you plan to do about the crime rate?
What do I plan on doing about the crime rate? Well, interestingly enough, you know, we have, I think, 84 officers here on the reservation, probably more than Charlotte's got. So we have the means to help control the crime rate here on the reservation, but I think sometimes when the police department does their job, I think it falls short of what should be done in the court system. I know a lot of charges out there on people, and some are dismissed because of not having a jury trial, but, you know, I think it's going to have to, I think the police department and the court system is going to have to work together and come up with better means of helping solve this problem. You know, council can allocate the money or whatever we need to do, but, you know, it's these top two departments that really need to work together to help, you know, solve the crime problem. They got the upper hand on this, but until they do something that's a little stronger or something that's mandatory sentences or some kind of structure, I think it's going to continue.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley?
Will you repeat it one time, please?
Sure. What do you plan to do about the crime rate?
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to make sure you said you. So if elected, what I plan to do is to go through the charter and strengthen our laws so that we can have harsher punishments and we can have a solid foundation for our court system to follow. There are a lot of gray areas in our charter, and there are some crimes that don't match the punishment that are written in the charter right now. So my goal would be to go through there and change the law. That's the only way that we're going to be able to reduce our crime rate. Thank you.
All right, Boyd, a follow-up? 1 minute?
Yeah, I think our police department does a wonderful job. It's tough being a police officer and the crime rate that's around us. But I'm certainly not saying we need to lock them up and throw away the key. That doesn't work. It's been proven that doesn't work. But I think we need to at least. I think the penalty, the punishment has to fit the crime. I think we're going to have to look at that. And unless you punish someone for something they've done, they can continue doing what they're doing. So hopefully, legislative, executive, judicial, and the police department, can come up with something to help solve the crime rate here. Just not here; it's everywhere, and it's. But hopefully, we can do something about it.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley, 1 minute.
Yeah, with the amount of officers, I'd also like to see more patrols done. I know sometimes you can go through town and see a big group of officers probably just chatting, nothing out of the ordinary, but just give them a little more duties, an area, a designated area to just patrol, because when people see those cars and they're doing wrong, they usually quit pretty quick. So strengthen the laws and get more patrols. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. The next question is yours. How much time do you actually spend with elders and children?
I spend a lot of time with children because I have 4 of my own. But I like to volunteer at the daycare and I like to volunteer at the school. So I spend time, I do a lot of involvement with the children. And also I go to Solly Care, spend time with the residents. I'll go to Solly Manor a lot and participate in their activities, serve lunch, do stuff like that. As long as I have time, I would say that I'm spending time with the elders every single day and children as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd?
Will you repeat the question? I heard how much time you spend. I didn't hear the rest.
Sure. How much time do you actually spend with elders and children?
How much time do I actually spend with the elders and
children?
Children?
Yeah.
Well, here again, visiting down Solitaire, I go down there at least once a week. If not, I make it my point to go down the following week. But it's all that's down there. Well, it's not all that's down there as elders, but there are some younger people as well. But when I go in there, I probably spend maybe 30 minutes to an hour just lingering around talking to different people, and I try to do them at random, not do the same people all the time, try to make rounds to talk to different people. Children, when we were invited to, I went to the Katua graduation the other day, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Actually, it's just over here to the left here. I think there were 10 kids that graduated that day, and it's just it's a marvelous sight, for them to talk in the Cherokee language and sing in the Cherokee language and wear their little outfits and stuff. But I probably couldn't give you a definite answer, how much I do spend time with the elders, but it's quite a bit. I'm out in the community and stuff, and it's considerable time, though.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley, 1 minute.
I Outside of going to the manor and Solid Care, I also go around and just visit with my neighbors because I have a lot of elderly neighbors. My aunt, she's 86 years old, and she still tries to get out and cut her grass, but I'll go down there and mow her grass for her if I see her out there trying to do it. So I try to get out into the community as well, other than visiting the facilities that are set up for the elders. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. 1 minute, Boyd.
Yeah, getting back to the elders, I don't spend a considerable amount of time with them other than solid care when I'm meeting somewhere out on the road or somewhere in the grocery store or whatever. But I do spend a tremendous amount of time on these two things right here, my two phones, my personal phone and my cell phone. That's generally the most calls I'll get from is elders, needing assistance or help or even just mere directives, on what to do. But I thoroughly enjoy talking to them on the phone and help them any way I can, and they certainly appreciate it. Probably the most word I've heard since being in council, I appreciate you calling me back, and that means a lot to me because if you don't call them back, you don't know what they want. So they haven't been a text or a phone call I haven't returned.
Thank you, Boyd. Last question, and it is to you. Why can't you have an office in the community and be available to the community when you are in an official, not on an official business? Let me read that again. I'm sorry. Why can't you have an office in the community and be available to the community when you are not on official business?
Well, that's a good question, and that's something actually we're working on right now. The old rock building down there where the finance department was, where finance moved up to the old police department, that's vacant now. And Chairman Wachacha asked each council member, do you want an office in this building? I raised my hand to take an office in that building. It may not be full-time in that building, the office every day, but it would allow me to meet people in the office that wants to come in and speak one-on-one. So I was all for it. I think it'd be great. But as we all know, we have a lot of work sessions and community or committees we're on. So, but I was for it. Raise my hand, but it's not the nutrition right now. It's not being built, but that is one of the things. I think most of the council members there do want an office down there.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley?
I've talked about this for several years myself. I've always wondered why the council members don't have an office or just a point of contact right in your actual community. I suggested once about using the office that's in our community building. I was told that it would be too much for a council member to sit there for 8 hours and then have to work or be on call 24/7, but I disagree. I think if you're running for council, you know what you're getting yourself into. You know that it's 24/7. So I would definitely be in support of having an office and being available as long as I wasn't in a meeting or out of town on travel. I would be available for my community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd, 1 minute.
Well, the last 2 days I've met constituents in two different locations from my community. One in each coffee shop. And the office would have been pretty good to meet them in then. But here again, I'd even made the thought of, or had the thoughts of, having one in our community building itself, the new Birdtown Community building. I haven't met any of my constituents anywhere, or anybody else from any community that want to meet me, but I think an office right there in the old rock building where finance was would be great. Would have our own phone, everything else right there, and then seclusion when somebody wanted to come in and speak, it'd be very private.
Thank you, Boyd. Ashley, 1 minute.
Yeah, just following up. I know that you two have two council members in each community. I would try to make sure that at least one person was available every day, as long as you're both not out on travel. I think it would be hard for both to be in an office all day, every day. but I think it'd be a good idea to have at least one person there available all the time, and you could rotate, but I'm in full support of having an office in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. All questions have been addressed. The candidates will now have 5 minutes each to make closing statements, and Ashley, you're first.
I would just like to thank the One Feather staff for holding this event. I really appreciate it. I'd like to thank Boyd for coming. I know it means a lot to both of us to be invited, make the general election. So I think it's really important for us to be available whenever we're invited to places like this. So I care enough about the community and their support to make sure that I showed up, and I'm here to answer these questions for everyone. But I also want to thank the community for their support, thank my family. It's definitely been an adventure, not just this year, but over the past 3 years. But I really appreciate everything, and I want to encourage everyone to get out and vote during the general election. It's basically the only right you have right now without a constitution, so make sure you use that right. And thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ashley. Boyd?
Well, I certainly appreciate Ashley, taking time out of her schedule, to be here with me during this debate. But I think a debate is it's a great thing. Ashley and I both know we got 1,730 voters in Birdtown, registered voters. I've been to a little over 400 of those, but this helps me reach out to the people I don't have an opportunity to go visit, knocking on their doors and getting their concerns and comments or whatever it may be. But I appreciate the One Feather staff setting this up for us to hold this, and I know we get a little nervous when we're up here, but it is what it is. But the conversation I had yesterday, me and the lady would probably talk 35, 40 minutes, and one of her last questions to me was, she said, "Boyd, how do you enjoy council?" And I said, I appreciate you asking me that question because I enjoy council very much. It's a great job, and I call it a job because I get paid for what I do, but I'm a servant to all the Birdtown people and other communities alike and the whole tribe. But it's a great job. I just enjoy what I'm doing, and hopefully we can move the tribe forward. I think when I first got in, I think we were kind of divided as people, but now we seem more unified, which is a great feeling, knowing that maybe I had something to do with the people coming back together. But it's just a wonderful job. I like it, and I certainly want to thank the Birdtown people, for getting me in the primary and getting ready for the general election. And there's a lot of hard work left to do, but I'm out there knocking on doors, and that's what it takes. My magnets, my signs, my pencils, the pens, that don't get you nominated. That don't get you elected. You have to knock on the doors, and that's what I do. But here again, I appreciate everybody's done to make this necessary, and I certainly, here again, I appreciate, all the Birdtown people for having trust and supporting me going into the general election. Thank you.
Ms. Ashley Sessions, Mr. Boyd Al, we appreciate you for coming and participating in this. We would once again like to thank the candidates for their participation and willingness to serve. We encourage all tribal members, regardless of who you vote for, to make your voice heard in the 2019 Tribal Council elections. Next debate will occur on June 20th, beginning at 5 p.m., and will include Snowbird, Cherokee County, and Paint Town candidates. Folks, exercise your right to vote. Good night and thank you.